I'm on this Zoom thing. I've had to come back in the front room because the connection's shit.
Steve, mute yourself.
I can't get myself. I'm just a blank screen. I can see everybody else.
Steve, just mute yourself while you're talking to your wife. Right, I muted him myself, so there we go. Right, it's just double check everything's live, and then we'll go. Yeah, we're okay. And I'll try and contact the other Steve at the same time. So good evening and welcome to the D&K Reposs Non League show. And we're here for the next couple of hours. And of course, joining me as usual is my co-host, Keeper Mahon. So welcome, Keeper. You okay, mate?
Yeah, I'm very good, Dave. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad at all. And of course, also joining us, bottom left-hand corner, as you can probably see on screen, is the man from one of the clubs that's quite close to me. I'll be honest with you, heart-wise. I think it's a great little club. Of course, manager of Brighton Sea Region, Ryan. How are you, Ryan?
Yeah, very good. Thanks for having me.
All right, and down in the bottom right-hand corner, actually trying to sort out his video camera is Steve Baker, of course, the manager of Harrow Borough, and we're hoping to be joined shortly by manager of Salisbury in Steve Claridge as well. But guys, I suppose an interesting first weekend of the season.
Yeah, very good, Dave. It was nice to go and watch a game that had some points for it, and looks like, hopefully going to have a full season. And seeing the results coming in, and obviously the little buzz of the spectators before the game, and obviously all the players and managers beforehand sort of tweeting and saying sort of how much they're looking forward to it, and sort of planning ahead. And yeah, it was just nice that it sort of all went ahead, and everyone enjoyed it. Well, not everyone that lost, I suppose, but most of the fans enjoyed it.
Where did you end up yourself then, Keith? Was you at Phoenix game or?
Yeah, I ended up. I was at Phoenix watching them play Faversham Town, which obviously I had a few friends at Faversham I know, so I just popped local. I play golf early in the morning, so it helped me out.
And of course, joining us, bottom right-hand corner of the screen, as you can see, is I suppose everybody would say the living legend, Mr. Steve Claridge, and of Salisbury. So welcome, Steve.
Hello, mate. Yeah, thank you very much. Sorry I'm late, mate. I was struggling to get that link off my message, so apologies for that. Oh, now look at that. I'm back on, mate. Yeah, all done now. All good, though, thankfully. We were just saying that, the weekend, some good games at the weekend, and it's great to have football back at, step 3 and step 4 this week. Yeah, it's been fantastic, actually. It's made a huge difference to everywhere. I think the gates were up slightly as well, which we're hopefully keeping our fingers crossed that will remain for the season. I think I think non-league football's certainly becoming more and more valued. I've got to say, I think people are looking at it as a viable alternative, mate. Mm. No, absolutely. Well, let's say we had a good crowd at ours. I mean, crowds, Keith. I mean, what do you think about the crowds during the week? Up, do you think, or? Yeah, no, I agree with Steve. They were. I think people wanted to get out and watch an actual proper game of football, and were desperate to go back and see their club. Some of the spectators haven't seen, players, management, or even, I'd say, most of their committee for 18 months, Dave. So, I think it was great for everyone to do. Mm. Right. I think what we get a little bit confused with, because the gates and the crowds aren't quite so big. The less the gate, you seem to think that the less passionate the people are, or the less it matters, and that certainly isn't true. Those 300 people, it means as much those 300 people as it did to the 62,000 at Tottenham yesterday. Yeah. So I think everything has a place, and don't get me wrong, and there is always a pecking order and an order of some description in life, but I think you have to understand that everything has its place, and for some that is non-league football, and for some it means an awful lot to them.
I think most, so a lot of the fans, Steve, it's even a little bit closer than what it would be. Like I'm a Spurs fan or whatever, because you're actually part of that club. You feel part of the club.
Yeah.
You're actually, supporting. The manager talks to you. Some of the committee will talk to you. The players will talk to you. So you do actually feel like you have got a valid interest in non-league football.
There is, and and you're absolutely right, and that's the difference between non-league football and what you say, what we consider as professional football. But a lot of people say, well, why don't players do that at the pro level? Why don't managers do that? Why have they become so aloof? The reason they've become so aloof is because nothing can be said now that isn't a secret. People say about the characters. There's no characters because you're not allowed to be a character. You're not allowed to voice an opinion. You're not allowed to say something that the majority disagree with, because you'll just get, you'll get hounded out. So, that is if people want players and management to become more open, then they've got to become more used to keeping, quiet and keeping secrets, because that's unfortunately how the game and how society works now.
Do you think that's one of the downsides to pro football then, when you was in it, Steve, is that you can't be mostly as out front and honest now as you maybe can as a manager over in non-league football? Yeah, I think everybody. I think we're now almost in a situation where we have 10% of the population guilty 90% out of an opinion, mate. It's as simple as that. There are, I'm sure there are certain things that you wake up every day and feel like you'd like to say, but you can't, because that it will be misconstrued. It'll be taken in a way that you haven't meant it. It'll be twisted to suit someone else's purpose, and you'll be the bad guy. So it's.
Oh, we lost him. I dare say he'll be back very shortly. But Steve,
he might have a cut off, being an old pro footballer, that as soon as he goes to speak out, they cut him off.
Steve, are you there still? You're on mute, sir, so you'll need to unmute your microphone.
You muted, here he's off.
Yeah, I'm there, but I'm.
That's all right. Don't worry. You stay like you are, mate. You're okay. You can.
Well, some would say I look better.
Well, I was going to say that, Steve. We have a few guests we'd like to say we couldn't see them, if I'm honest.
I mean, Steve, did you your first game back? I mean, did you notice a decent crowd?
No. No, we didn't have a particularly big crowd. I think, unfortunately, it's a sign of the times. I think we did lose a few supporters through COVID.
Yeah.
That haven't returned, and I think because we have like the age bracket of your average supporter, there are a few that I haven't seen return at all. So the crowd wasn't great. Gatetown hardly brought anyone either. So no, it was a quiet one, but no, it was good to be back play a proper game.
Of course, you've got Steve's team as well. And you've got Steve's team in a couple of weeks.
Saturday, yeah.
This Saturday.
Yeah, we got Salisbury on Saturday.
Harrow Borough. Very good.
Barry. Steve,
Steve, you're right.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I got a phone call. Yeah, one of my old clubs as well. So always look forward to playing them, because they are really friendly, decent, nice club. They are. They always give me a bit of stick behind the dugouts and that when we go up there, but they're always really good and nice, friendly people. They are.
Steve, just to let you know, because the other Steve from Harrow's all blacked hair, he doesn't want to show. He's actually at the ground, and he said he's got the old tactics board and all that behind him, and he don't want to give anything away.
Brilliant. Wonderful.
He can't work his camera out.
Oh, see, we don't worry about tactics, mate. Don't worry.
They don't listen anyway. It's a waste of time.
Yes.
I see Steve. It's not Steve Clavich. You was at Met Police on Saturday.
Yes.
Obviously, a very decent pitch over there.
It wasn't great Saturday, I've got to say. I had a lot of weed in it and that. Yeah, no, it's strange because we've always been out there. And you're right, absolutely right. It's been decent, but even their manager was complaining they hadn't watered it and it was covered in weed, mate. So yeah, it wasn't the greatest of surfaces, to be fair. I wouldn't want to be probably going down there in the depths of winter, but no, it's always a difficult place to go, whether the pitch is good or bad, mate. So it was a tough game for us, to be fair, and we'll take that point.
And are you quite glad that your game on midweek is at home and not away?
Well, considering it's Truro, I am. So
yeah.
Yes, even though they've moved to Plymouth, yeah, it is. We've got 2 home games now. I mean, the point of Met Police is only a good point if we get a result out of the next 2 games. Obviously, do you know what I mean? It's no good getting a result like that and then all of a sudden, you get 2 home games and you don't follow it through. So no, it'd be. I mean, this league, I think this is going to be this is the strongest this league has been for. Since we've been in it, certainly over the last 3 or 4 years. So sides have just got stronger and stronger. And you really do think when the you think everyone would be pulling the wings in because of coronavirus and lack of money coming in, but it seems to have had an exact opposite effect on everyone. I mean, the money that's being spent in the league is at times is incredible.
How have you all felt, all 3 of you, obviously, at step 3, with what happened at step 4, where teams got promoted on the points per game, and obviously at your level didn't, because step 2, and obviously definitely step 2, no one got relegated. Did you sit back and think, well, why didn't they do it all the way through?
Not really. It wasn't. We weren't the team that suffered. To be fair, it's Truro and Chesham, and we were 3/4 of the way through that season, and those 2 clubs had pulled. They were something like 12 points clear of third. So the title was between those 2. They've been the best 2 teams all season, and yet it was just stopped in a heartbeat, and the season was just over in effect before we knew it. So for me, the other, obviously last season was a misnomer. It was called off before it even started. But that season in particular, I did feel, I've got to say, Chesham and Truro, I did really feel for them. And I spoke to him yesterday, to be fair. I mean, they got a bit of a tonking, Truro, on Saturday. And if you don't get out, you get, quite often you get that one chance to get out the league, that one chance when you have that fantastic season, everything goes together. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't just mean, a lot of supporters think, oh, we'll just do it next year. It's not how it works, because other teams get better. Other teams take some of your players. Other teams, as I say, spend more money. And I spoke to him yesterday. I said, for me, I would, you'd still be getting over that. We should be in the Conference South, and we're not. We're still in a really, really tough division, trying, as hard as we possibly can to get out of it with absolutely no guarantees. So for me, they're the 2 clubs that have suffered most, not us. I mean, I think we could have gone 5th that year. We might have got a playoff spot. We might not have. But we certainly wouldn't have won it, and either of those 2 would have. And that's a completely different then outlook on what you do going forward. You're still stuck in a Southern Premier where you now look at it. And that year, probably there were 3 or 4 who could win it. The year after that, probably 4 or 5. This year, put 7 or 8 teams up there who've got a chance of winning it. So that's how much tougher this league has become year on year.
Was there one result though, Steve? And I mean, both Steves, I suppose, both in the same league. There was a result in your league, at the weekend that you were quite surprised at. I know it was only sort of opening day, but I mean, was there a surprise result in there for you? Yeah,
well, Truro, the one I was on about, Truro getting beat 4-0 by Hendon. I mean, you wouldn't have expected that. I mean, I spoke to Paul day after, and if I remember rightly, I think Taunton had a couple of quite heavy defeats that started last year, and then suddenly went on a really, really good run and were unbeaten, when the season was curtailed. And I just said to him, sometimes these things happen. They've moved grounds, don't forget. They're playing at Plymouth Parkway now, while their new ground is being built. And sometimes that can have an adverse effect. But yeah, I mean, that for me, I mean, 4-0 at home to Hendon was a real turn up for the books.
Yeah, just to add to that, I'd probably be the same as Steve. I think that was the one result that stood out straight away, because Truro normally they don't lose too many games, but as he said, new ground, things like that could make a little bit of difference. I think as well, and we've suffered from it, and I certainly know we're not the only one. I'd be amazed at how many people had a full strength squad out Saturday because of COVID.
Yeah, I looked at that was the other surprise. I looked at Truro's side, and I did speak to the manager, and they didn't have anyone missing.
Really?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I know I was the same as you. I was looking to see if someone had been sent off. You know, if they'd had one or two injuries, if they'd had problems getting players on the pitch, but no, he didn't even mention it.
I think you always get a couple of strange ones on the first day, but on the flip side, I think you'd say full credit to the Hendon.
Yes, absolutely.
They've at least put a good squad together there. They've gone there, and obviously it's clipped. But first day of the season, even at the top level, you look at Tottenham yesterday against Man City.
Yeah,
you never would have backed Tottenham to get anything there, and it happens sometimes at the start, doesn't it? But I'm sure that's not something that will continue with Truro.
No, well, I hope it does tomorrow, but no, not after tomorrow.
I'm glad you said you were surprised that Tottenham beat Man City. I was more that Brentford beating Arsenal, Dave. Yeah, being an Arsenal
I don't
fan.
anyone was surprised at that, were they? Let's be honest.
And I wasn't. Somebody had actually asked me at work actually the day, in the morning, what did you think the score was going to be? He said, "Surely you're going to give him a good walloping." I said, "Well, if we get away with the way things are going, I said we'll probably end up losing 4-0." So I was quite close. I didn't get too far off. But,
I think Arsenal have become the new Tottenham, haven't they? They're so soft. They got soft underbelly again, unfortunately, haven't they? So we'll see. I mean, I don't know. I watched the Tottenham go. I did it for Sky yesterday, and the difference that is a team who believes in what the manager's telling them. That's a team who believes in everything that they're being told to do, and the work rate, the effort, the application was unbelievable, and which it would have to be to beat Man City. So, no, they were fantastic.
I think sometimes when you take your top man out of it, like Harry Kane as well, everybody else steps up. You know, we have it at our level. Sometimes when your best player's not available, everyone just knows they've got to step up because they haven't got that one main man to get them out of the...
Yeah, I mean, you look at the difference Tottenham against Man City last year in the cup final, and you look at the difference Tottenham against Man City yesterday. It was, and that's just, you know, with all due respect to Ryan Mason, new to the job, you know, the players probably didn't quite understand what he was trying to get across, and he probably didn't understand himself because he hadn't done the job. Whereas this fella is a proper good manager, and the job he did at Wolves was unbelievable. And he looks like a bit of old school and a bit of new school. You know, he's got that reputation that he's not going to suffer people who don't give him 100%, but he looks like he knows how to look after people, and players respond to him as well. So he's that's a really good appointment for me for Tottenham. It really is. Unlike Tottenham as well, because the last one was an absolute joke, but this one really does seem like a good fit.
I mean, one of the things for me though is one of the scores that surprised me, especially at half time on Saturday, was Waltham Abbey against Bedford. I know Harlow go there tomorrow night, but to see that Waltham Abbey that had beaten Heybridge Swifts, I think, 7-2 the week before, and then were 5-0 down to Bedford Town at half time.
Yeah, I mean that is that you look at it and you think whether, as I said, I mean you're always looking for something else, you know, in the mix there. Did they have a man sent off? Did they have, you know, players missing? At this level, you can have 2 or 3 out. I used to go and watch a hell of a lot of games, and I'd scout a lot of teams. And the times that I'd scout them, right, and we'd only scout them a couple of weeks before we playing them, and they've been absolutely dreadful. And yet they come to play us, and like there's 8 different players, and you think, where is the team that I've just watched that we set up to play against? I'm thinking we can turn these over no problem. They bring a team that is unrecognisable to what I've just seen, and they're absolutely brilliant. And you think, I don't understand it. What's the point of me going and driving all this way to see a team that doesn't resemble anything like the side that's going to play us, sort of thing? So times that's happened at this level. But anyway, yeah, I mean, sometimes you do get these funny results.
But is that a case of, I don't know, with yourself as well, Ryan, and the 2 Steves and Keith, when, you know, when you was there as well, do some managers not go and sort of scout up the teams they're about to play because of that reason? Has that got better, or has it got worse as the years have gone by with you know, players being completely different when they turn up?
I can only sort of speak for myself really, and our management team. We do work quite hard, to be honest, trying to get reports on other teams. But as Steve just said, I can stand in the changing room and deliver my tactics based on what I'd watched the weekend before. Yeah. But then when you go out there, they're a different formation. They've got 5 different players.
Yeah.
The player I was telling them all about isn't playing, and they're looking
That's
at me
it.
like an idiot, you know, because it's completely different from what I told them. But sometimes it does pay off, and that's the good feeling.
Yeah.
You go and do your homework and it pays off. It's a fantastic feeling.
Yeah. I mean, you're always going to stay professional, aren't you? You're always going to keep trying to do that. Even though sometimes you scratch your head thinking, I don't know why I bothered. But anyway, you're right.
Yeah, I had the impression, David, if I didn't go and something happened, like penalty or a free kick or set play against you, and you sit there and think, why didn't I go? If you do turn up and their team is a little bit different, you go, well, at least I've done what I'm
absolutely.
The beginning, I'd say the first month of the season, it does change a lot, but it sort of starts to settle down a little bit. I think you normally find after sort of, people have settled their sides down and players know if they're going to be part of the squad before jumping ship quickly and going elsewhere. But I'd always be kicking myself otherwise, thinking, oh, why didn't I do that?
Yeah.
So, Steve, I mean, when was it that you took up the reins at Salisbury?
Well, it was strange actually, because obviously we found the only Arab who didn't have any money come in, and he bought the club for £1, which is, I think that skint him actually in the end. I think that did for him. He went bankrupt after that. He came in. He was the archetypal, when you've got some sort of superstar at a hotel and he's coming down the stairs and he sprints down the stairs next to him, holds his flag out or a scarf, and has a quick photo taken. Well, he brought all that in. It was absolutely ludicrous. He was sleeping in one of the dressing rooms. He borrowed a car off one of the coaches. The whole thing was farce, and we'd actually agreed to take over the club, but then it got liquidated. So there was 4 of us who bought the club. Now, when I say that in loose terms, because the club, we put very, very little amount of money in that. I think 4 of us between us, I think it's cost us like about £5,000 each. So to get the club, and then so that was 6 years ago. So obviously 2 years of not playing or not finishing the season. So in total 4 years, 6 years ago that happened, and we've done all right since. To be fair, it's been great fun. We've had no overdraft. This is something that I'm sure the other 2 lads would like to comment on as well. Is we really do have to run our club properly. We will never go back to what happened before. As one of the joint owners, you get to see some of the finances and the financial situation at the club before it went bankrupt, and it was just unbelievable. You would never have believed that a business could be run like that, and not be liquidated and not be bankrupt. It was absolutely fun. And the times that this happens in football, it beggars belief. People are frightened to say no. If you spend £50,000, fans will want you to spend 100, and if you spend 100, they'll want you to spend 150. It's not till you say no. We cannot. This is where we are. This is the type of club we are. This is the size of club that we are, and this is what we're prepared to do. And then people have to either like it or lump it, and that's what we are. We run with no overdraft. We've never had a coach. We've got many buses that are associated with the club, with the academy, that take us. None of the staff get paid. They only get expenses. We have a budget for the players, and that primarily the football pays for that. Our chairman is undoubtedly the best chairman in the league. He's a fantastic man. He puts in what he needs to put in, which is not huge amounts, to keep the club solvent. And that's the way we work. And I'm sure that is not the way that some of the clubs are working this year in our league. It really isn't. They are paying extortionate amounts of money, incredible sums of money going through their football clubs. And if they didn't have the person behind them putting the money in, they'd be bankrupt like Salisbury were, in 6 months' time.
Mm.
Well, Ryan and Steve, your 2 clubs, obviously, we know really well, are very similar to what Steve's just there, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm sure you guys know over the last few years, from a budgeting point of view, Harrow is one of the lowest budgeted clubs, and I would go as far to say this year we will probably or definitely have the lowest budget in the league. I won't say what it is, but it's tough. The one thing I will say about the club, though, listen, I'm not complaining because I know the budget when I start the job, so you can't start moaning about it 6 months later, or as I've now 6 years later. It's pretty much been the same budget since I'm there. But as a club, the money is always there. The players are always paid.
Yeah.
Whatever they agree they're going to get, they get it paid. In 6.5 years, I've never had a player that's been paid incorrectly. Yep. The chairman, similar to what Steve said, my own chairman, he's as good as anyone I've worked with. They're very, very honest. They do everything the right way. All the players were furloughed during COVID. The non-contracted players were all furloughed. They were massively looked after. Unfortunately, quite a few of them didn't show the same loyalty back when the furlough ended. I think a few of them changed their mobile numbers, but that's a conversation for another day. But yeah, I mean, the club, like Steve was saying, we've all gone through tough times, and I know what I've got to work with. We have to hit the loan market with a few pro clubs to make the numbers up and keep the money down. And a couple of those have done us good before, and I like to think most years we punch above what we pay, and we'll have to do the same again this year. But I mean, listen, I know when you talk to players, they all lie a little bit about money. I know everyone sticks a zero on the end here, there, but some of the clubs that I'm normally in competition with, the money's a couple of my players have gone to them for, or players we've tried to get have gone them for. You're talking like fairly average players at our level, £300 or £400 a week.
Yeah.
6 of it. Put 5 of them, that's my budget gone. So you're like, well, we've got to trust in a little bit of youth. Saturday was the youngest side I've ever put out. But we're going to have to trust in youth, and hopefully we can put our money into an experienced spine in the side as and when most of them are available. But it's tough. But as I said at the start, I know what it was when I started there. So you just have to get on with it.
Steve, obviously, sorry, Steve, your chairman obviously knows, I've known your club for a long time myself. So that, you are one of I'd say, the smaller clubs with financial wise in the league. Yeah. So what does he say to you? And now he can see you're going with the youngsters. Does he just say, look, just try and keep us in survival every year, or is there a little bit more pressure on you, or is there just look, where we are is unbelievable from where you was a good few years ago? Yeah,
I mean that's where the chairman is so good. Take all the other things out of the equation. If we lose, he's no different. If we lose 4-0 or we win 6-0, he's no different. And for me, that's a godsend because you put enough pressure on yourself anyway. We don't have a massive crowd at Harrow, but I put enough pressure on myself not to worry about anybody else. But he's just realistically the club. If we finished, I don't know, probably 14th, 15th, if we could get to a local cup final, and obviously the Holy Grail is the FA Cup, which we had 4 years ago, first round. That's a fantastic season for the club. And like I say, they don't put the pressure on me from that point of view. A couple of them do when it comes to the FA Cup. I understand why. But I put more pressure under myself because I don't want to go into the changing room at the start of the year and say, right, come on, boys, let's see if we can finish 15th. I want to try and push them as far as I can because I'm ambitious. I want to do well. And two years ago, when we last finished the season, we finished 7 points outside the playoff. It was the highest the club had finished, I think, in about 12, 13 years. And again, with what we worked with, we punched well above. So it proves you can do it. Met Police have proved you can do it. My targets are probably higher than the chairman's of the club. So yeah, that side of it, they're good, but it's like anything, isn't it? If your target's mid-table, you want to finish above. If your target's just outside the playoffs, you want to get in it or you want to win the league. So if we punch above with what's expected, then I can't ask for a lot more than that, if I'm being honest.
I could echo 80% of what he's just said. I mean, obviously our target is different. Our expectations are different, and rightly so. But we have a chairman who's exactly the same as that. He understands our budget would be around, I would say, 6th to 8th in the league. Our problem is that people still remember the heydays of the conference. The money that was spent, the players that came to the football club. We're a million miles away from that now. And that's been the problem, is trying to communicate that to people and let them understand that there are 6 to 7 bigger clubs with bigger budgets in this league than we are. And I'm not saying that to make it sound good. I'm saying that because that is absolutely correct. I know that for a fact. And yet, if you said this 6 or 7 years ago, people would have laughed at you. That Hayes would have a bigger budget than Salisbury. You must be there. They would be saying you're a lunatic. You know, Taunton took 3 players from us last year, you know, because we weren't prepared to pay the sort of money that, you know, that they were being offered. And that's how we are, and that's how I am. And if I, you know, I'd rather pay, you know, someone strong money that I feel gives me value for money. I'd begrudge someone a £5 if I feel like they haven't given me 100%. So we get the right characters, we get the right people, you know, we pay the right money. There isn't anybody who doesn't earns more than they're worth at our football club. You know, it's a really, really good way of running the football club. And I'm really proud of what we've done, because we've done it the right way. We haven't gone over the top. But as I say, the club runs with absolutely no overdraft at all. We've never had to do anything. The chairman puts, as I say, not huge amounts in. He puts, enough. But he's exactly like your chairman, where, you know, you get beat, he's the same as if you win a game of football, because he knows that, you know, week in, week out, I care more than anybody. It hurts me more than anybody. Why does he need to add to that? And there's nothing that I can do. You know, I give 100% every week for expenses. You know what I mean? That's it. You know, and we work extremely hard. So there isn't anything more that, you know, if we get beat, you know, apart from we have a conversation about why we got beat, and, you know, and how, and, you know, that we can do better and we will do better. But he's exactly the same. He's realistic, and he understands exactly where we are and how tough the league is.
And yourself, Ryan, obviously me and Dave know your club, and, you know, we know your league pretty well as well. And there are some pretty big hitters in your league, to say the least, as well.
Absolutely. But, you know, Brighton, as you both know, over the years, they've always kind of been the underdogs, and they've always thrived on that a little bit. You know, every game we go into, we're up against it, if I'm honest, or we should be. But sometimes that's a nice place to be, because there's no massive expectations on us from other teams. I think most teams will come to us, or we'll go to them, and they'd expect to beat us. However, we've got a great bunch of boys, we've got a great management team, we've got a great fan base, great chairman and committee members and volunteers, and we've always thrived off of that. We've got a group of players that work so hard. They train every week without fail. They listen to instructions. They apply it most of the time. And we just, you know, we have to rely on that, because we can't go and spend thousands on bringing players in and paying wages. What some of our players get paid is peanuts for the commitment that they make 3 times a week, and even little things like watching the video clips back. You know, it's all time out of their day.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's a nice place to be sometimes, because, as I say, being the underdog sometimes is a nice place to be. And first game of the season on Saturday, we picked up 3 points. Equally, being at home is nice for us, because whoever we're playing against, they've got to travel quite a way to get to us. So any home midweek games, or, you know, any home games in general, really, we would always fancy ourselves to get a result or some kind of points out of it.
How many contracts then, Ryan, have you got where your chairman's turned around and said, look, come and play for me and I'll decorate your front room?
yeah, that's about it, really. Dave.
So, Ryan, just tell people a little bit, because obviously it's your first proper start in your job, sort of how you sort of become the Brighton team manager and where you was before.
Yeah, just I'm not actually the Brighton team manager, so I'm the coach. I'm Austin with me as the managers. But yeah, so I mean, I played for Brighton through all their promotions. I think I was there for 5 promotions. I tore my ACL when I was 24, and then I went and worked with James Webster. And in my first season, we won the Ryman North. At the time was the Ryman. Got promoted, and I was with Webster then. I think we then got offered the Aveley job. So we went across to Aveley, had a great time there. Brilliant club with brilliant people. And then me and my partner fell pregnant, so I ended up at Clacton, which was a local club. Once again, great club, great people. That was at step 5. And then we got the call, or Tommy got the call on Sunday morning and offered us the Brighton job. So we snapped their hands off, because, to be honest, you know, I've had a great time at Aveley, great time at Clacton. As I say, they're fantastic clubs with fantastic people, but being at Brighton is like home for me, and that's where I like to be, and I absolutely love it there. As you both know, the fans there and everybody there. On Saturday, we only had 159 there, which, you know, is not bad, but they were noisy, they were singing, they were right behind us. And as you know, they clap the opposition off, they clap us off. And then when Mersham left the clubhouse, they all stood up and clapped them out as well. So it's such a great place to be. And I'm so happy that I'm back there, to be honest.
Steve, I mean, I don't know much about Brighton, but we one of the funniest things I think ever in non-league football for me, watching a game happened at Brighton. And we went there with Harlow to play Harlow, and Harlow got some really sort of loud fans as well as Brightlingsea have. And we were sitting in the stand, and all of a sudden the Brightlingsea ultras were a little bit late getting into the ground. And I remember sort of sitting around, and it was a little bit like the old days of British wrestling. So anyway, I could describe it, because literally as these ultras came into the ground, there must have been about 3 or 4 elderly ladies sitting behind the back of me, giving them absolute grief because they were late for the game and they needed to get themselves down the other end of the pitch to start singing against the Arlo fans. It was just the way it came across. They all stand up with their handbags having to go at these 3 or 4 guys that just walked in the front door, which is absolutely superb. And it's just a fantastic club.
It is. And I think, you know, with any clubs really, when you've got success and you are winning games, your fan base only gets bigger. And we were so successful. We got so many promotions in such a short time that the fan base just built and built and built. We're obviously in a league now which is massive, as Keith said, and it's a seriously tough league to be in. And, you know, we're not, over the last couple of years, Brightlingsea haven't been winning games left, right and centre. But hopefully we can turn that around and get all those fans back in and get the place rocking again. As I say, I mean, it was rocking. It was lots of noise there on Saturday. But if we can continue to build that, as we say, 1, getting the fans behind the team, and 2, financially, it only helps the club.
I see, Ryan, that obviously I see Merchant's team sheet, and someone obviously I know, but I'd say Steve knows really well. In Barry Howes brought himself on.
He did, yeah, he did. And I mean, it was, I can't remember what sort of time he came in. It was quite late. I think it was 2-0 at the time. So, but you know, you can tell he's, you know, you can tell he's paid the level, because he's very, very smart, very clever, and he was difficult to play against. But I think it was 2-0 at the time. So, although, you know, they had a free kick last few minutes and it just sort of whistled past the net. So it would have been a close couple of minutes towards the end, but we felt like we had it sewn up, and luckily we saw it out.
Who's joined us?
There he is. He's stuck with his phone out.
Are we, Steve? We can finally see you now. No, we just can't hear.
Could you not hear me? Could you not see me?
No, the other Steve, come back on.
I was going to say,
come back on with video now, but no sound. Are you there, Steve? He's having one of those days, I think.
He's having one of them days, yeah. Steve, you were saying obviously about your league and the big hitters, and obviously sort of 5, 6 or 7 clubs could win it. What sort of teams would you expect to sort of be up challenging for promotion?
I would. Well, I mean, you Taunton, Hayes and Yedding, Truro, Western-super-Mare have to do better this year. Western-super-Mare, you know, the money that's been spent, the players that, you know, that are being paid, the money that are being paid. Gosport, another side that have underachieved dramatically, who are, you know, probably double the budget that we have, you know, spending money, you know, big money as well, and you know, and they're having to go, and good luck to them. They've got a chairman who can afford that, and that's them. I'd have to put, we'd have to be in the equation somewhere, although I don't think we'll win it. I think we'll be okay. I'm not sure about Tiverton this year. They lost a couple, so that's difficult. Swindon-super-Mare might not quite be just that. I think they might just be the level below. But there are definitely 5 or 6 who will, you know, Chesham, they'll always be up there. So there will be 5 or 6 with 2 others, you know, that you can add into the equation that will go close. I think it's the strongest league it's been since I've been in it. You could have said, as I say, you could have said 2 or 3. 4 years ago, you could have said 3 or 4, and it's just become. It's like there's a couple of teams every year that get added to the equation. So I mean, we went to Met Police. Met Police won't get. I don't think they'll get promoted this year, but they will beat, you know, a lot of sides at home. There's no doubt, and they'll beat a lot of sides away. You know, and that's where you are in this league. You know, Hartley Whitney. Who wants to go to Hartley Whitney on a November dark, drizzly November night to Hartley Whitney? That's a tough place to go. So, you know, Hendon, tough place on a 4G. You know, loads and loads of places where you wouldn't put those teams in the equation of winning the league, but you'd certainly put those teams in the equation of, wow, what a tough game that's going to be for us.
Steve, Mr. Baker, would you agree?
So I missed this start of the question, but I presume he's asking of who's going to challenge this year in the league.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I'd echo what Steve said there. I mean, obviously, like the first year we come into it, I think 3 years ago, we didn't really know anyone, so you sort of didn't know what to expect. But I think over the last couple of years, I'd say it's probably been the usual suspects there or thereabouts, in and around the top 5 or 6, whether that's Chesham, Truro, Salisbury, Tiverton, Taunton. It's been the same boys there or thereabouts. Then you get the similar ones just hovering outside that. But I was thinking before I come on tonight, I thought you're definitely going to ask a question. And I started going through it, writing the list out. And by the end of it, I'd written nearly everyone out apart from about 5 teams. So I might have just read the league out. I think Hayes and Yedding will proper challenge this year.
Yes, absolutely.
They've got a good budget. Listen, you still got to get good players. You still got to put a side together. It's not just about that, but obviously it helps. But they would have been not far off last year, I think, with the way they were going. So they'll be strong. Like you mentioned, you likes of Gosport, another club, big budget. Really not 100% sure what they're going to be like.
No, absolutely.
So there could be 1 or 2 surprises, and I think most years there's normally one team you maybe don't expect to do that, and that's what a club like us. That's what you sort of hang on to. That if you could get yourself in and around, not far off the playoffs, sort of January time, who knows? But that's not something that I'm particularly looking at the moment. But yeah, I think. Well, for me, at the start of any season, I think normally if you'd have said you finish above Truro or Cheshire, you're going to win it. But I think it'll be a little bit different this year.
Yeah,
it'd be close. But there is not one easy game in there.
No.
And I've been in leagues before, and maybe even when we first come into this league, you look at a couple and you think, yeah, we'd be all right there. And oddly enough, we would normally lose them games and then go and beat a top side on the Saturday. But there's not one game. Listen, there might be a few that look at us and think, yeah, Arrowborough at home will be okay. But we've turned over a few and had a few good results over the last few years in the league. And hopefully we'll do the same again this year. But there's not one on paper that you think, yeah, that'll be all right. Because like Steve said, there'll be some that you think, player for player, we know we're better than them. We know we can beat them. But you go there on a Tuesday night when the pitch will be dreadful. Yep. It's awful. Yep. The floodlights don't work properly. You've had a 3-hour journey to get there. There's so many different things that come into play then. And I guess that's what non-league football's about. So we can't moan about it, but it does make it difficult.
And Ryan, with yourself as well, obviously your league, we said, is full of some big hitters, but was there any results at the weekend that surprised you? There was a couple for me, if I'm honest. And again, sort of same thing. There could be 6, 7, 8 sides that are in the shake-up for your league as well, aren't they?
Yeah, at least I think. Sort of looking down the list there, and you'd expect the normal lot to be up there. Folkestone, Worthing, Enfield. But then I think this year you'll have Bishop Stortford, Hornchurch, and as Steve a minute ago said, I could name anybody on that list, and it wouldn't surprise me if they're in the top 6 come the end of the season. In terms of results, I don't know, it's tough, isn't it? Because there's no real shock, and I think someone alluded to it earlier on. The first game of the season, after such a long time away from the game, I think anything could have happened. So I wouldn't be surprised by any results. I was a little bit surprised, possibly by Craig Lewis. I thought Lewis might have snuck that one. Obviously, they've recruited well this year, new management team in. But as I say, I wouldn't be surprised by any results on the first game of the season after such a long period away from the game. I think myself woke up Saturday morning, I was so looking forward to a competitive game, and everyone's in the same boat. So I'm not surprised by anything that happened Saturday.
Are Lewis still supporter owned?
Yes, they are.
They are they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Just wondered about that.
They have the policy that I think that because they're ladies teams in the WSL, I think Championship, aren't they? That it's all equal pay. That's the way they've gone down, being fan owned. And done really well. It's a very, very well-run club now. Really well.
Was you surprised with that, though, Keith? With that game, I mean, Ryan just brought it up. That probably was one of those games, a bit like the Billericay Kingstonian game from a few seasons back. You know what I mean? There was a lot in that, and big sort of become sort of a bit of a derby, bit of a big clash because of what's happened in pre-season.
Well, yeah, the manager at Craig, Tony Russell, leaves. Yeah, well, listen, Tony leaves, who people know I know well, and goes to Lewis, takes most of the side with him, not all of them, and at a big club. And obviously, you know, Danny Kidwell and that, who's been around in non-league and professional football, takes over at Cray. And I think when people see Danny's sort of signings and some of his pre-season at Cray, they were like, "Oh, was it a bit transition?" He signed some good players, but also some youngsters from lower levels. So to see that result surprised a bit, because obviously I know Lewis played Dartford. I know it was only a pre-season friendly the week before and beat them, and by all accounts played really, really well. So yeah, that did surprise me a little bit, but because of maybe the old manager leaving and they get paired against each other first game, it gives that little bit of extra spark as well. So that most probably just lifted the players. I'll tell you the result. The game if I would have gone and watched would have been Folkestone against Worthing. But I actually thought Worthing would come out of that one. But I thought that was a great result there for Folkestone as well.
Yeah, that was a good result. I guess if it was the other way around and it was at Worthing, it might have been different. But you just don't know, do you?
And again, another question to all three of us, just slightly off the subject, but a team that I think are quite favourites to that, and obviously who won the trophy in Hornchurch. Does that give you step three a little bit of belief or hope that you can go and win the trophy, being at your level?
No, we'll stick with the Middlesex Cup, thanks.
I've got a bit of history with Hornchurch actually, because when I was manager at Weymouth first time round, and do you remember when Hornchurch? I'm sure they had a fellow who was in windows and stuff, and they spent like about, I think it was over £1 million. They were it was in not the Conference South, but it was the Southern League at the time. It was like 11, 12, I don't know, it was quite a while ago, and they went bang. And the league, the time that we played in it was between them and us who would win it. And their budget was somewhere around the £1 million mark, and they actually didn't see the next season out. They went bang at Hornchurch. Does anyone remember those times? Or
yeah, I do. I remember that. It was pretty similar. With the same era when I think Lewis were in the Conference South, and I think they had financial issues as well, and then become a club owned. So I think it was that sort of time as well.
It was incredible the money they spent.
Yeah, they come all the way down to what we'd call, the Ryman North then, I think it was, Dave, wasn't it? I think they come out, they were in the Conference South and just dropped, no, I remember. Yeah,
it was incredible sums of money they were talking about spending. I mean, it just, blows away what we're doing now, sort of thing. You're talking about sort of best part of £1 million for that level, and you think that's impossible, but no, that was true. So yes, I know all about Hornchurch. I hope they're not doing the same again now. That's all I know.
No, they're definitely not. We had them all on at the end of last year, just as that was before and after the trophy final, and but they've just got this really good bonding. It looks like to me, and they've got a strong side. I think Ryan will say that, but they look so together over the last 2 years, and I think they're going to be difficult to beat, Ryan.
They will. And it's a really tough place to go, isn't it, as well, Hornchurch? I mean, it wasn't long ago, only a few years, I think they was in the Ryman North, so they've done incredibly well. But it's great, isn't it? They've won the trophy. It's great for, lower level non-league football, and also great for the Isthmian Prem, because it's sort of, it's a good advert for the league as well, which is always good.
I think, as you say, as an achievement, it's absolutely unbelievable. And not only was it unbelievable to win it, the fact that they weren't even playing league games was just made it even more incredible. And you almost couldn't write a story like that. I think the hardest thing for them now will be is maintaining that, because that must have been such a high to achieve something like that. And then you come back in and you restart, and then it's back to Saturday, Tuesday, going to maybe not so nice places with not big crowds. I think that'll be, they clearly showed they got massive character as a group of players. And I think that'll be just as tough a test now to get themselves going again. But they've clearly got something there to drive them on. And I don't think they'll be losing too many games this year. Do
you think that might have been an advantage for them not playing the league games, possibly? Just getting really geared up for those games they have got?
Yeah, I think you could probably look at it in two ways. I mean, clearly you're getting great time to rest your body. You're only concentrating on one thing. And let's be honest, as footballers, if we were only playing, say, once every 3 weeks, but with the aim of nearly getting to Wembley, you don't get a bigger carrot than that, do you?
No.
So I think maybe all them things, just like, as I say, the stars align sometimes and everything seemed to go right. And maybe it did help them. I mean, initially I thought it could only go against them because you're not playing. But it clearly didn't. And I think once they got so far in it, I think that maybe the self-belief took over.
Yeah.
And whoever they played, I think every game they won was a team above them, if I'm right in saying.
Most of them were conferences, weren't they? Notts County,
Yeah.
and I think they had Darlington. Yeah, it was, and a lot of them were away as well. It was.
Yeah.
It's a difficult one. I'm just going what you're saying, Ryan, because when they were, if someone like Notts County who's full time, I think if they were playing more than sort of every 3 weeks, if they didn't have that team spirit, I thought they would have struggled. But I think that's what really mostly carried them over, because you can't really replace. I know, and Steve may know this more than us, but it's good resting your body, but you still need that competitive edge, I think, especially going into the big games where a team's naturally got that. Yeah, you're not picking up your injuries as much as maybe the teams that were playing in the conference, but it stop, start. I think it's quite hard because you just lose a little bit of momentum.
Yeah,
I think
I completely agree with that. Like Steve says, I think there's two sides to it, isn't there? I guess if they're just gearing everything towards those odd games that they had, but absolutely, I'd rather a team, I think, that was playing weekly, winning games, momentum, and going into these big games, having played, got a win in the week or got a win the week before. But he's got a history of winning that cup, hasn't he? I mean, unbelievable. Those teams you mentioned there, Darlington, Notts County, massive clubs.
I think when we've I think the difference between full-time and part-time is huge. I mean, obviously I've come out the full-time game, you go into the part-time game. Part-time players, there's a difference about their physicality. There's a difference about, the way that they actually are as people. Some people, we've had a couple of lads. We took Tom Whelan out of Millfield, and he was, and we had the boy Dominic Jeffries last year from Newport, and they've both gone on to bigger and better things than Salisbury. One's gone to Brentford, the other's got been sold a couple of times and gone to East League. They were both full-time players who were playing in the non-league, and they could not, if they weren't playing, they couldn't keep themselves at a level to play games of football. They had to play football to keep themselves fit, because that's the way they were. We've got other lads now who are part-time players who know how to combine a job and their fitness and how to do that and be the best that they can be. So there's some people that do suit non-league, and there are some people who just do not suit non-league. They have to be playing or involved full-time. And the difference between full-time footballers and part-time footballers physically is just another level, because your body every day is tensed, it's ready for work, it's ready for physical exercise. It's never up, it's never off, and then you start. It's always a constant in your life. Whereas when you're part-time, your job plays a big part in it, obviously, and you have to temper that with your fitness levels. So I find you get big lads in the non-league that are part-time that I think I think, I wouldn't mind playing against him, because he's big, but they're not massively strong, as in they're strong for non-league players. But when you actually train full-time, you back into someone who's a big lad full-time, they ain't moving. You know what I mean? You back in someone who's a big lad part-time, and sometimes you can shift them about. The physical difference between full-time and part-time is absolutely huge for players.
One of the things that someone said to me the other day when we were talking about people coming on the show and stuff before we started the show back this year was that a lot of people are still very, very surprised about how many ex-professional footballers are sort of involved in non-league. And I mean, Steve, sort of being one of those, are you surprised at how many have actually sort of come down and put something back into the sort of into that, like football and into the non-league game? Because it seems to be every sort of year it feels like there's more and more sort of non-league players coming down and being part of what we love.
Yes, I do understand that. I mean, that it's very, very difficult to get on the football ladder, whatever you are. I mean, my background's full time, so ideally I would like to be full time, because that's the sort of environment that I know and I'm most familiar with and comfortable with. But if you're talking about, you want to be involved in football, people do. It's a lifestyle choice. We everybody on this program loves to be involved in football, and that's not just about playing football per se. It is about being involved in that environment, of having those type of people around you, working with people, trying to improve people, trying to improve people's characters, trying to improve young kids into being better people and better men. All those things that come into being involved in a football and the football environment, and everybody on this program I'm sure will say that that's what they're trying to do. It isn't just about, of course it's important, and the most important thing is that you get results and your football club functions well, because that is the catalyst for everything else. But to actually be in a changing room, to actually be amongst footballers, to actually be amongst that type of person, and have an impact on the way that they go about their business is fantastic. So whatever level you come in at, you try and do the best that you can. You try and be as professional as you can. Doesn't mean because you're going at non-league level you give anything less, or you don't do it the way that you would if you're at a top club. You just you do what you can with what you've got and be as professional as you possibly can.
I mean, present company excluded. I mean, one of the guys that for me, and I don't know if Keith would agree, one of the guys that seems to really sort of somebody that wants to promote non-league, but being such a sort of a big name, he's Tony Gale. I mean, he's one of these people that you can contact when you want, and he almost, I don't know, there just seems to be something about him that he always wants, as if you've known him for about 25 years. And you just feel comfortable straight away as soon as he starts talking to you, and he just sits there and has a laugh and a joke with you and stuff like that. But I mean, that's what I mean by that. It's so good to see guys like yourself and Tony and Dix and others coming down to this level, and and really sort of showing that that you want to be here as such, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I've really thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, I've missed it so much. Saturday afternoons I actually went, believe this or not, for the first time in 40 years shopping on a Saturday afternoon. For a telly. I lasted about half hour. My missus drove me absolutely bonkers, mate. I went home. I left her there to it. I thought, what am I? The thought of not having anything to do on a Saturday afternoon terrifies me. So I mean, it's more than it's probably everything that everybody on this program. It's probably the only thing that we've ever known. I don't think it'd be a huge miss in everyone's life, I'm sure, if they weren't part of some football club in some shape or form.
Everybody feel the same way? Keith? I mean, yourself?
I've got the sack just before lockdown, if you remember, Dave, so I'm waiting. No, listen, it's, as I said, when I went to a game on Saturday and still amongst it and still at the same level. And it's in your blood. And when it's not, and what Steve said about going shopping and that, it's just, thank God for online shopping, because I couldn't get dragged around any shops now. It's technology's come good in that way. But yeah, you do. It is in your blood. It's something, I've done for 23 years constantly at non-league level, that you wake up at the first game of the season and you're ready to go. And the same buzz is there from what it would be. I'm sure Ryan and Steve exactly the same. For the first time, you become a manager and you walk out for your first game to what it is now. It's just that it's just natural. It gets your heart going. There's nothing else that does.
Yeah, I think I would totally echo that. I think what I've noticed, certainly since coming back, now we're being back into real football and pre-season and bits and pieces. One, you forget how busy you are doing it. And after the first week, you almost think, I don't know how I do this and do a job and have kids and all the bits and pieces at the same time. And in the last 6 weeks, I would say it's probably been the most stressful 6 weeks I've ever had as a manager. We've had players that we thought we got that left, other players that coming in, we thought deals were done, they then didn't come. we've had players tapped up, we've lost other lads, and it's been non-stop. And up till I had no goalie Friday night. Going into the first game of the season, we signed a goalkeeper on a contract who's now signed a pro cricket contract, so he can't play. Another one didn't get international clearance because of Brexit, which apparently was my fault because I voted out. So I'll have to take that one on the chin. And it was the last couple of weeks, and I'm like, I'm getting up, I'm going to work every morning at 6 o'clock in the morning. I've been getting in at 11 o'clock at night because we're very light on help and volunteers at the club at the minute. I'm having to pick the kit up for every game, take the kit back, drop players off, and I almost ran out of steam last week. And I was sitting there Friday night at 11 o'clock. We're trying to sort a deal out with Fulham to get a loan deal. It comes through on Saturday morning at 10:58 when the cut-off was 11 a.m. I'd had about 2 hours sleep, but as stressed and tired as I was, you get to the game and you're like, this is what it's all about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although then we lost, so I went home and I didn't speak to anyone for 2 days. So.
Yeah. I was waiting for you to keep the through one in.
Sorry?
I was waiting for you to say the goalkeeper threw one in.
Well, he actually saved the penalty. I've never celebrated so much. Shame he couldn't stop the other two, but there you go. No, it was good, to be fair. He played well.
How difficult as managers has it been, though, like the 2 years of COVID, season-wise? You know, I mean, keeping in touch with players and making sure that the players, are going to be there for you when you did come back playing. I mean, in a professional game, probably it's it's incredibly easier that way. But at non-league level, where you maybe not got people all on contracts, how difficult was that to sort of still keeping in contact with players?
I mean, from my point of view, it was extremely difficult. As I mentioned earlier on, when the club agreed to pay everybody furlough money because of COVID, everyone was answering their phones and doing all their training. We set them 3 times a week. The chairman personally actually paid a couple of people out of his own pocket because they weren't entitled to furlough, but he felt, being the type of person he is, because they'd already been with the club, he felt that it was right that he did it with them. I've got to be honest, I've been really disappointed with a lot of players through COVID and since we come back. I've had a few that have shown their true colours. That 1 minute, they were staying and everything was great. And listen, at the end of the day, players are players. They got to do what they got to do. And as managers, we do what we have to do. But certainly over the last couple of weeks, anyone that's followed me on Twitter, all I've done is moan because I've been sick. I've run out of underpants. I've had that many pairs pulled down in the last 2 or 3 weeks. And it's just when you work as hard, and you guys will know what I'm talking about. When you work as hard as you work, all right, you get your expenses for it. By the time you break that down for an hourly rate, it's nothing. You put a lot of pressure on yourself. You're stressed. You miss time with your family. You have to get a job that works around it. So you're always tired and stressed. But listen, we do it because we love it. I'm not moaning, but I've been really disappointed, not only with quite a lot of players in how they are, but some of the other clubs I've dealt with lately and some of the things that have been done. And listen, you've got to do what you've got to do. You've got to look after yourself and your club. But maybe I'm a bit old school. I still think there's a way to do things face to face, have a conversation. And that seems to be disappearing out of the game. So I haven't enjoyed it at all. It's been really, really tough. But now we're here. We just have to get on with it, and you do your best, don't you? That's all you can do.
I'll tell my missus you're going to go shopping with her next Saturday. Then, all right?
It's not that bad. Not yet. I'll see how we get on next week.
So Ryan, what about you, mate? Is it been difficult with yourself at Brighton and Sea?
Although it was difficult for where we are in our area, the flip side of that and the beauty of it is we are the highest team in our area, as far as up to Chelmsford. So anyone around here that is sort of half decent, we like to think would be with us. So within the area, we do get the sort of best crop of players. Having said that, me and the manager took over a squad end of October, and there's not many of them left. But that was through a lot of our choice. That was, and we've rebuilt a completely new squad. My role, obviously, as a coach is slightly different. So Tommy deals with what Steve was talking about there, all the phone calls and the deals, etc. Between Tom, and we've just brought in Steve Pitt as well, who was at Chelmsford previously. So those two tend to deal with that a little bit, and leave me to deal with all the football side of things. which I much prefer, to be honest. And by choice, that's why I'm staying as a coach. And I just completely stick to everything football on the training pitch. Tommy and Steve are brilliant. They, I have a lot to do with team selection and deals and things like that. But mainly my focus is on what we do on a Tuesday night, what we do on a Thursday night, the warm-up, the preparation, etc., etc. I found lockdown was good. The boys, we've done lots of different tasks through lockdown, set up a league table and made it really competitive. And what they had to do each day was go out for a run or a cycle and send us evidence of that. And I set up an ongoing league table. So, and all the management team got involved in that as well, which was good. And some committee members. So to be honest, the lockdown, the boys worked so well. And as I say, we've got a completely new team to what we took over. Tommy and Steve deal with most of the deals and I tend to just stick to the football. So I've got the easy bit, really.
What about yourself, Steve? I mean, was it easy at Salisbury?
We were okay, mate. We lost a couple. As I said, Dom Jeffries went to Brentford.
Keith, I mean, yourself, how hard would you have said that would have been to try and keep players if if you were still sort of in that role? Would you as a manager sort of been in contact with them on a regular basis?
Well, before obviously I lost my job, Dave, I was, because it happened. So we was talking quite regularly, making sure everyone was all right. It was right at the beginning, wasn't it? So obviously, you didn't know much about COVID, and everyone was scared and worried. So you just wanted to make sure people's families, and as much as we're managers to the players, you do bond some friendships with a lot of them and all, and you need to know what's going on in their life. So we've done that quite a bit. But as what Steve sort of said, what week he's just had, that's the thing I really miss. It's complete, all the grief and the staying up, and that's what gets me going. What makes me want to be a manager and want to carry on being a manager. When it's sort of taken away from you, you sit there and go a little bit what Steve just said as well about going shopping with his missus. You're like, what am I meant to do? You don't know what you're meant to do. Like, even like now, I'm looking at games going, well, normally I'd be out Monday. Well, I'd be doing this Monday, but I'll be out Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. If there's a game Friday, I'll be out Saturday, Sunday, all the time. And now you're sort of twiddling your thumbs. So at the beginning, it was really difficult. I think it changed the way I was quite a bit. I've said to you before, I was a little bit bitter in certain places, and I was maybe a bit snappy because as much as it was, I was bored. I didn't know how to deal with my home life. I didn't know how to deal with seeing all my family all the time, which is really strange. The big plus side of that now is that I've enjoyed that. I've loved that part of it where I've missed that for so long. But I still miss exactly what Steve's just done for the last week. Even it is grief, and you sit there and you have steam coming out your ears. It's a challenge. And you take that challenge on. We've all been there, and you think, do you know what? I'll show them. I'll keep myself to as professional as I am, and football's funny. It's such a small world, and if people burn bridges with you, you normally find out that it's you that gets the last laugh. And so, it is difficult. But you just, I think I'd rather be in where they are than where I am at the moment. But sometimes you do need to step away and have a little bit of a breather. Otherwise, you can become someone that you're not as well.
Just on that, Keith, what you were saying out there, and listen, as much as I moan about it, and I probably always will, when it comes off, you get a buzz off it. So Saturday morning, when the signing come through from Fulham, I was absolutely buzzing because I'd worked so hard to get it done. Like I say, we've been at the club all night. Had about 3 hours kit, like doing everything you can to get it done. And when it comes through, you're like, that's what I do, and that's what I think I'm quite good at. You could do with a lot more help sometimes. And when a lot of time it goes back to, listen, if you've got bigger budgets, it makes it a little bit easier to do. If you've got a bit more support behind the scenes, it makes it easier to do. But ultimately, your job is the manager. And if you don't do it, it ain't getting done. So you do, but like I say, when you do get some of them ones over the line, and then you see a good performance, you almost think that was actually worth it. Didn't feel like it at the time, but you do get a buzzer when it comes through.
Do you think, Steve, you have to work a lot harder because obviously, you know, Harrow Borough, we look at your league, you know, the person's next year, obviously ex-professional footballer, people know him, obviously big club, and you look down the other clubs as well, big clubs. Harrow are sort of small compared to them, and you're sort of battling. I know, you know, your local rivals are down the road, Hendon as well, but you're sort of up against it a little bit, and especially where you're based as well, you are got a lot of Eastern and North Premier teams around you as well, so you're competing on all fronts.
It's always been difficult. I make no bones about that. It's got harder and harder each year. It's got harder once we've gone into the Southern League because of the travelling. So if you sort of like Hendon up the road, we can't compete with Hendon at all when it comes to wages. Don't have a problem with that. They're a nice club, great people, good manager, good chairman. So good luck to them. But no, it's very, very difficult because it's like anything. I worked in sales for 25 years. So if I can get in front of a player or get him to the club, I think I've got half a chance of getting him because I would just try and sell myself, what we want to do, how we want to play, how we treat the boys. And the biggest thing for me, because I don't have big money to be able to just pull in people. Yeah, listen, we got 2 or 3 that earn well for us, would probably be an average wage elsewhere because I still need those extra bits of quality, which you're not going to get cheaply. So I have to be careful where I put my money. But the sort of road I go down now is when I'm trying to get the younger lads in that have maybe come out of pro clubs or not got in at a Conference South club. The first thing I do to them is I'll say to them, look, we don't pay big wages, we don't have big crowds, but I give them about 6 or 7 names that since I've been there have either gone pro or are playing conference. I said, what we do, I said, every one of them lads come in here on 50 quid a week, and within 2 years, 3 years, they were pros or they were playing for a conference side on £500 or £600 a week. One went to Cardiff on a 2-year deal, one's at Shrewsbury, one went to AFC Wimbledon. I said, because what we do here, we can give you a platform. Now, some people think you're giving them a load of old spiel, but the proof's in the pudding. I've had good lads that have come in that have done really well for us, and they've gone on. And that's what we talk to the young boys about now. Come in here. I can't pay you much more than 60, 70, 80 quid a week, but come in, knuckle down, and all of a sudden in 2 years' time, you might have 100 games under your belt, and you're 20 years of age. And if you're doing well, you won't be here long. And that's probably the one thing that helps me get boys in. And to be fair, when we do get the lads in, we've got a good team spirit. It wasn't great last year, but I think predominantly that was COVID. The boys couldn't have a beer, they couldn't go out after a game. But we've always had good spirit within. I've got good staff. Everyone sticks together, and you almost, because we sort of know we're sort of like the poor team of the league, you almost use that as a bit of your own motivation. That, listen, most people don't think we're very good. Most people would think that we're going to play against, think we probably should go down. Or I read things in other programs and they've almost written in it, oh, we're playing Arrow Saturday, that should be 3 points. So you just have to use those things as a motivational tool and do what you got to do with it, really. But no, it's really, really tough getting players, mate. And that's what's made it so difficult recently. And that's why I've had so many late nights and trying to get loans and waiting for other lads. Because we are where we are in the food chain, we've had to hold our nerve. And I knew we'd have to wait till the last week. And you just love to have been settled down maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago and then enjoyed it a little bit more. But I know what it is. You know what it is. And you just have to wait and hope you have a little bit of luck along the way of it as well.
Steve, do you find it, and I've asked like Tony and Julian this question before, you know, is it for somebody yourself with your sort of stature in the game, is it easier for you to pick up players because they want to come and play for Steve Claridge?
No, I don't think that is the case. I think that you deal with very complex characters, very personalities that, you know, most of them, let's be honest, most of them haven't heard of me anymore now. I'm that old, so it doesn't matter. Everyone's forgotten about who I am. So no, I think like it's been said before that you try and get that player in front of you. That's the first thing. I mean, it's difficult to even do that. We have nobody. We have not got one local player. You know, Salisbury is not renowned as a football town or a football city, and we don't have. You know, we don't. As much as people can say, and what I like about the other two fellas on here and what they're talking about their clubs, it's the same as ours. It feels like they have a realistic expectation of what their club should be, what it should achieve, and where it should be in the scheme of things. Not a small budget expecting the world. Not everybody looks at us and thinks we've got this mess. We haven't got a massive budget. We've got a good budget that suits our club at this level. That's what it is. And it will be bigger than Harrow. There's no doubt about that, but it won't be as big as Taunton. It won't be as big as Gosport. So we're somewhere, but we are able to get, we have to pay. We'll pay someone 200 quid a week, okay? And he'll come from Bristol, and he'll come from Bristol 3 times a week. Now, it's £200 a lot to ask someone to do that. I don't think it is. That's £70 a trip, just under. That would someone on this program go to work a day's work for 70 quid? They wouldn't. Do you know what I mean? So we as I said before, we try and do it the right way. We are not, the rumours and the rubbish that gets spoken about is just absolutely ridiculous. We're a realistic club. We don't have to get promoted. What we want to play good football. We want to play it the right way. I've got a certain way that I want to see us play. The club, that is the one thing that I think that the fans want at our football club. They are used to having a good team. They're used to having a team that plays football. They will not accept, some of the teams that are successful at our level play a certain way, and that's to get the ball from back to front as quickly as possible and play in a certain area. Our fans will not accept that. They will not. They will not suffer that style of football, and that is the one thing that I have taken on board and understand, is that we have a certain responsibility to provide good football for the fans that come to our place. And and we are a big club in this league. There's no doubt about that. We'll get 600, 700, 800 at times if we're flying, but that doesn't always go with, you get a huge budget to go with it. We don't. But what we do have is a manager that gives me a chairman that gives me a chance and is realistic on his expectations. And I, as a manager, cannot ask any more of a chairman than that.
One. Is it with yours? I mean, with your sort of club, as you just said, sort of being in a sort of in the place that it is in Essex, is it easier for you to sort of get players and keep players?
I think once they're a little bit like what Steve said, once you get them through the door, if I can get them through the door, then I think I can sell them, or as a management team and a club, we can sell them what we do. And the sessions are good. The fans, as you know, are brilliant. And I've said it a few times now, the chairman's fantastic. So once you can get them through the door, then that's half the battle won, I think. But it's just, I've spoke to a few players that I had previously at previous clubs and asked them if they'd like to come down and have a look. And the first thing they do is they send me a screenshot of Google Maps and how long it's going to take them to get down to us.
Yeah.
That's half the battle. If I can get them through the door, then I'd fancy them to stay and enjoy it and love it. And as Steve says, if bigger clubs come knocking and they do get the opportunity to move on, then we never stand in their way, to be honest, as long as it's the right move for them.
Can I ask the other lads, you've both been in the game long enough. Do you speak to a player, and at the times I've come off the phone and I've said to my coach, he's not coming. He hasn't said no, and he hasn't said yes, but I know he ain't coming. And yet others, you just get that. I'll tell you, I've got a chance with him. I didn't think I would have, but he surprised me. I've got a little bit of a sneak with this lad, but this one ain't coming. Do you know what I mean? And you almost know after those first 5 minutes that they're not coming.
The ones that get me, Steve, is that within the first 30 seconds, they just go at you how much before you've even managed to speak to them about the club or where it is or come and see me. And I normally, you get a good judge of that. I think with what Ryan and Steve have both said, I've always wanted to get someone in front of them and sell them the club and who we are and, the policies of the club, same thing, especially non-league. And Steve mentioned it about being paid every week. There's a lot of clubs that don't do that and stop it or cut wage bills halfway through seasons. And but I think you're right. You do get a good judge within a good 5 minutes if you sit there and think, well, is he just listening to me for the sake of it, or is he really keen?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think one of the things in management I've found, the more I've done it, is your gut feeling's very rarely wrong.
Yeah.
whether that's on a player's personality, whether when you get them in, what you think they're going to be like, how long you think it's going to last. But 9 times out of 10, I think if you've had a couple of chats and, like you say, you've met him face to face, your gut feeling is not normally wrong. You do get the odd one, though, that you think, I've got him. And then all of a sudden, last minute, a curveball comes out or something changes. Yeah. Or you get the occasional one, you think, we ain't getting him. And then a week later, you've got him through the door. But yeah, 9 times out of 10, I think you probably know. And like you mentioned, Keith, normally for me, when that first conversation, if money's mentioned within the first minute of the conversation, that puts me off straight away anyway. And that's nothing to do whether you've got big money as a club or not. I mean, no. I'm not being daft. If you're going for a big player, you're not going to sit there and talk to him about 40, 50 quid a week. Of course you're not. You're not going to insult him. But I've had a couple that I've spoke to lately, and you're ringing them up, and like you say, within 30 seconds, they're like, right, well, I'm at least sort of 250 a week. And I'm like, well, we best end the conversation there then. Because if that's all you're worried about straight away, not only can I not afford it, but I've looked at your CV, you've had 8 clubs in the last 4 years. So, you know, it's like you've dealt with enough players and spoken to enough players. You soon know with your gut feeling. It very rarely lets you down.
Well, one of the things, I suppose, just change the subject a little bit. One of the things that we spoke about on the show last week when we had Jason on last week from the Southern League and Dave, of course, they've announced that there's going to be the streaming, that the clubs can stream their games, and then of course the FA put a curveball in and said that you can't do them live, and etc. etc. I mean, for you guys, I mean, do you think streaming might be the way to go for your clubs? Do you think that it could be something that the club could make a bit of money out of?
Simple answer, no.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, I'd rather him in the ground watching.
Yeah, we don't want him streaming football.
Waste of time at our level.
Yeah,
I think during lockdown when the National League teams were doing it, fantastic, because it gave everyone an opportunity to watch some football. Clubs were taking money from that, but now we're allowed back in the ground. I just think it's a no-brainer to be and get people back in the ground.
No, I agree. You don't want people at home watching it. You want them at the club buying a pint and having something to eat.
I think the thing that I don't know if you listened to it, Steve. It's obviously because it is your league they're doing it in, and it was the owner of the actual firm who's watching this now and maybe going, "Oh my god!" But you can't do it live. You can buy a ticket, obviously, after the game is finished. So a lot of managers or a lot of players or obviously fans that couldn't attend your game, they could buy it. And what it was saying, you can charge what you want. And they take 10% of what you're charging.
So they learn about £3 out of Harrow.
Yeah, if you charge,
No,
basically.
Listen, it might work for some people, and it might offer someone an opportunity to watch a game that they've missed. Like we don't have access to film our own games at the minute. It could be a tool that, if it was done, that some managers or coaches. But ultimately, listen, we've had bloody 18 months with no one coming through the door. So the last thing we need is giving them a video to sit home and watch it. So no, come to the game, have a pint and watch it, and give me a bit of stick.
Steve, you feel the same way?
Well, the ones who are going to give me stick can watch the stream, mate. The others can come there, by all means. No, that wouldn't leave us with a lot, to be fair, unfortunately, but not to worry.
See, I looked at it in a different way. See, for me, if you've got a game there where you can't go and you can't go to a game or whatever else, and you can pick it up at sort of 5 o'clock in the evening and watch the game at 5 o'clock in the evening. I think I had a conversation during the week. One of the guys from the company actually called me during the week, and I actually said to him, I said, look, any football club that goes into it with the feelings that they're going to get 100 people watching the stream at say a £5 a time, then they're fools. It's not going to happen. They've got to sort of go with small targets of maybe 5 or 6 that might just buy the game to start with. And I was saying, especially maybe at step 4 level, maybe, and again, I might be talking rubbish because I'm not into what you guys actually pay your players, but if you charge £5 and you end up getting 10 odd people, that's 50 quid towards your wages every week. That might be the difference between you picking up an okay player and maybe a better player through the door. But and he was also saying how they also link stuff up to it with crates of beer, Keith, weren't he? He was saying that there was bits on it where you could actually link it up and sell people beer on it as well to raise even more money for the club whatsoever. And he said also the players would like to go back and see, their goals or whatever else. Now they're making all these sort of montages of their goals and stuff like that they could possibly pick that up afterwards after the game as well, which would then put more money back into the kitty as well.
I think some of them things, Dave, in principle, sound quite good, but with the greatest respect to everyone at Harrow Borough, we don't have anyone there that would be able to do anything like that. We don't have anyone. We get the odd person that films a few bits on their phone or might turn up the camera, but we don't have anyone that could do anything like that. I mean, I think we sent a fax to someone the other day. You know what I mean? So
that's handy. That keeps my firm in money. That does.
So yeah, in principle, it's probably a good idea, but will it work? I don't think so.
I think the problem is you're giving them that option to not come, aren't you? Even if it's live or whether it's 5 o'clock, you look out the window and it's going to rain or whatever. It gives people that opportunity to say, do you know what? I'll watch it at 5 o'clock later on for a £5.
Yeah.
You might have paid, at Brighton, you pay £12 to get in. So you're still down on money, whether these people were watching it at home or coming through the ground, I think.
Yeah,
I think as well, you're taking away. It's not just about. For some people, it's more. There's a social feeling to it, a social aspect as well. Getting out the house, meeting friends, like you say, having a pint, going. There's a social element to the game as well, and to the day. Sitting indoors and watching a game of football that's already been played. You know the result. I don't think there's too many clubs who could afford to do that anyway, and would be bothered to do that. I think the only people who'd be interested is me. If I've got Harrow on a Saturday, which we have, I'd like to see your game from Tuesday night. I'd pay to watch that, yes, but as a sort of, if you're talking about a broad-based appeal, I don't think that's just not going to happen. What
about then? Say, I know saying that we've gone on the show and said for quite a few years now, maybe sort of a non-league sort of match of the day type program on a Saturday evening or a Sunday evening where clubs then maybe sending just their goal highlights into a certain place that then gets put into sort of like a show where there's 2 or 3 people, a bit like match of the day, where they're discussing it. Then you might have like a main game or whatever else, and then you've got which gets discussed, and then highlights of some of the other games in the league. Do you think that might go down a lot better, through sort of a social media or a YouTube channel or something like that?
That would work for me. That would work 100%, because the one thing I think a lot of us like doing on the Saturday and the Sunday is scrolling through Twitter, watching people's goals, watching the highlights. Because as Steve mentioned there, it might give you a chance to I watch the highlights from Hendon, Truro on Sunday on YouTube. So if someone come up with an idea, say like you had a Southern League package on a Sunday morning or a Saturday night, and it was every team had to send the highlights in that was filming and things like that, that'd be a great idea. I think that would really, really work. It would get a lot of views because the players, what the players are like. They can't walk past a mirror without looking at themselves, but they'd love it. And but we, as managers or coaches, it's a good tool to look at other bits and pieces, seeing who's doing what. What was their keeper like Saturday? Or we weren't too clever on the first goal. We'll have a look at that Tuesday when we go there. So we'd all use it, we'd all watch it, and we all do it at the moment. But if someone could package that as one thing, I think that would be a really good idea. I think that would work.
I think, Dave, that will be in the next couple of years, maybe at step 3 first. That will be something that you'll have to do, because in the National League already at step 1 and 2, you've got to do that anyway. You've got to video and send your goals in by X amount. You're not allowed to put them on. So anyone in the National South or North, they can watch everyone's goals and highlights by the evening. So I think that will come down anyway.
I mean, it was one of the ideas that I actually sent off to one league, and it got poo-pooed. I sent it to a second league, and they said it sounded interesting. And for me, it just sounded like a complete no-brainer. You've got somebody doing like a little non-league show like that on a Saturday or a Sunday night, whenever it might be, give them a chance to get their goals in and get it set up, and just and just get there to watch it. Because how many of you managers, as you just said there, Steve, scroll through, Facebook and, YouTube and Twitter and everything else you can find just to try and find goals to sit and watch, or highlights of certain games to watch. Where if it was all in the same package on the same channel, it would probably make life a lot easier for you guys to actually get the information you want.
You're still talking about people having the availability to go and stream those games, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're not gonna send someone in who's just done a little clip with their phone behind the goal of, you know what I mean? So there is an expense to it still, you know, and you've still got to have someone who's prepared to edit it and record it, and you know, to have it shown in. So it's a great idea, and you know, and what you're saying would be fantastic in you know, but the practicalities are still there of actually providing that, and the financial situation is still there. It's not gone. You're going to have to, you know, get someone to edit, someone do it. You're going to have to pay someone to do it. It's as simple as that.
Don't have to pay me. I'll do it for free. But anyway, that's not the point. But it's literally a case of, you know, that
concept's good. Yeah, concept's good.
What I'm trying to say is, you know, you could originally, you know, if you've got, I don't know, 25 games, 30 games or whatever through in the summer league or whatever it might be, you know, each one. How many of those teams are actually going to send in those goal highlights? You might only get half. But I think if you started off even with a small amount to start with that actually did send them in, I think it would then sort of snowball a little bit. And then other people would say, well, look, you know, look, we need to get ours on there. We need to get ourselves on that platform. It's getting this amount of views every single week. We need to get our goals on it. I think it might then snowball into something that might be a bit of a beast for everybody to get their stuff on, so everybody can get to see it. But yeah, you would, as I said, Steve, you wouldn't have to pay me. I'd do it for free. But I mean, with that, I mean, you've got the streaming and that. I mean, how many? I know Steve said he hasn't got his, but do you do anything like that at Salisbury and Brightly Town with like the VO or anything like that you use?
Yeah, we used to. We've like got an academy at the club, so some of the apprentices were doing their you know, their BTECs in sort of business studies and media, and they would often you know, get the camera going and film the game. So you know, invariably there'd be 5 games in the game, and only 3 would be recorded, mate. But there you go, hey ho, it's that's just one of the things. So the camera sometimes didn't move as quickly as the game, but anyway, not to worry, it's all good fun. But no, we do occasionally, and I'll tell you where it does stand in really good stead is for sending offs and stuff like that. We've had, you know, 3 or 4 times where we've had sort of decisions where maybe it's gone against us sending off wise, and you've been able to provide the video evidence and get it overturned, because that is the only way you can do it. You can't do it on witness testimony. So that's somewhere where it, you know, it can work for you in a way. But no, we used to, and I think we're going to try and do it again this season, because obviously, as Steve said, looking back on the game or having a look and seeing where you went right or where you went wrong is great. It's great.
Well, you said about, you know, overturning penalty decisions. I actually videoed a game for Harlow or quite a few years ago now, and videoed the game. Didn't think no more of it. Didn't see anything in it that was anything that was wrong in it or whatever else. And the opposite team used some of the footage to get one of our players banned.
Brilliant.
So I wasn't in, you know, I did get a bit of stick for us. So I did it.
No wonder you're doing it for nothing, mate.
Yeah, it's unreal. Couldn't believe it. Yeah, but it's just, I still, to this day, I've re-looked at that footage about 100 times, and I still can't see what the problem was. But there you go. But they did try it. But it is interesting. But do you see?
Just got the VO recently at Brighton, and it is powerful. It's a powerful tool to have, because we all know on here, when you tell players they've done something wrong, they don't always see it or agree with you. But when you can show them back, you know, live on camera that what they've done wrong, or even as a unit, as a back four, what they've done wrong, showing them is so powerful. And then addressing that in training on the Tuesday and the Thursday for us, we use that an awful lot. But like we said before we went live, Dave, you know, having somebody there being an analysis and actually filming the game is better. But they can be quite expensive, and they're not always around to do it either.
I'll tell you what, the times that I've played football, come off thinking I've had an absolute stormer, and I've watched the game and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I was absolutely shocking. Absolutely shocking. But you do sometimes, you're absolutely right, you remember instances, nothing like how they actually happen. I don't know what it is, but, you know, as I say, the times that I've thought, oh, I did all right there, and you actually watch the game back and think, oh, I was terrible. I was absolutely terrible. And it's the same as a manager. You'll see an instant, and you will remember that instant totally different to how it actually happened when you're showed it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Keith, I mean, what do you think about it though?
Yeah, no, I do agree. I think, and just what Steve was saying earlier, Ryan, that most clubs, I think, do video their games for that one reason of the sending offs. So say, I know we've done it. So someone charges £100 a home game. I sat there sometimes with the committee going, look, for £100, are we better off adding that to a wage bill a game, just to overturn a decision than to have a suspension on someone that might not? So I try to put it in that way. I try to sell it to the club like that. So for me, it's always been a massive help. I watch loads of games, Dave, as you know, but you do scroll down looking at as much videos as you can and goals, and it's more team lineups and whatever. I don't think I'm that bothered if some geese, a centre forwards score twice, and because that's what they do. But it is more of how have they scored, as I said before, set plays, etc., or how they line up, and that's what you sort of try and get. And watching a video is exactly what Steve says. You can go and watch a game, or you're involved in a game. And I get this with my arguments with referees, where you're screaming for decisions, and you watch it back and you go, well, I won't say it live, I'll go, I was right, but you sit there and go, well, it might not have happened like that. So it does help you with that. And I think, the more technology you've got, especially for training, when you're coming on a Thursday and you say, well, you ain't done that, and you always get a player that goes, well, I did, and you can actually show them, is one of the bigger tools that the best tool you can get. So I think you can use as much technology as you can get hold of nowadays.
It does backfire sometimes, I will say. We had one a couple of years ago. We played Dulwich at our place, and at half time I went ballistic at the right back for playing one of their forwards onside. They went 1-0 up, and we didn't video the games. 2 days later, he come in with a video from Dulwich, and it wasn't him that played them on. I had to apologise in front of everyone. I was caught red-handed. Nothing I could do.
But I think, Dave, technology's changing in loads of clubs now. And again, it is all down to what you can afford and finances. I know there's loads of clubs at our level that have got, that every player's wearing the vest. They can see how much they, how far they've run, what they've done. It has gone really professional, and they're expensive as well. And, I just think people are changing with the times, and it is filtering its way down in non-league.
Well, as I said to you the other day, we played Tilbury in a pre-season friendly, and there was a cameraman there filming for Tilbury, and he said to me, "I take it you're getting the same as me." I went, "What do you mean getting the same as you?" He said, "I'm getting £90 a game." I said, "I'm doing this for nothing." I said, "I must be doing something wrong somewhere."
Well, obviously you did. You got someone banned in your own team.
That was years ago. Yeah, years ago. But I mean, with that though, would you still feel comfortable, guys, if the opposition that you might have, say for instance, Steve's got the two Steves have got each other in next week. If like last week, Steve was to have sent somebody with a camera or whatever else coming into the ground to video the game from your point of view, that wasn't actually part of the two clubs there, and you found that out, would you feel comfortable with that, or is that something that you wouldn't feel comfortable with?
Me personally, go on, Steve.
No, do you mean? Wouldn't mind if Harrow sent someone to video our game last week prior to the game we're playing them, or are you talking about?
Yeah, so that's
if Harrow our game between Harrow.
Yeah, so if Harrow sent somebody down to Met Police to record the game last week, ready for
to Met Police, fine. They wouldn't be allowed to do it at our place, but obviously if Met Police say fine, then that's their prerogative, mate. But no, you wouldn't. I mean, Harrow wouldn't let us do it at theirs, and we wouldn't let Harrow do it at ours, mate.
What you find, Dave, say you go and scout a game, sometimes someone sends a scout down for set plays. He might video a bit of that on his phone or iPad to come back and show. But yeah, if someone walked in with a camera or video one of my games and we weren't playing against them, put it this way, he'd be going out with it not working.
We used to have a scout when I first came to the club, and he used to go out and scout the opposition, and he'd come back, and on my life, honestly, you'd think every week, week in, week out, we were playing Real Madrid one week, Barcelona the next. I was beat before we started, much as the players. It was unbelievable, his reports. And then you sort of, in the end, I thought, right, I'm going to go to a game, and I'm going to go to the same game that he's going to, just to see what he's seeing, because every team we're going to play against are absolutely fantastic. And it was just, I had to stop and say, stop. There must be, at some stage, we're going to play against a team who aren't very good. Every side was fantastic. So, we had to change the scale.
Do you know what? That's actually a good point, because I think sometimes, as much as we like to watch the opposition, and it is good to watch them, I think
you can scare yourself, can't you?
If you come in and you tell your players how good the opposition are, they're beaten before they go out.
Yeah.
I think if you watch it for set pieces, anything particular, maybe someone does, maybe penalties, which way they go, and specific things. But if you, I think I've been guilty of it before, that we sat down with the boys and we spent 20 minutes talking about what the opposition do. I think sometimes we have such a limited time together.
Yeah.
We're actually probably better off focusing on what we're good at.
Yes.
100%. And go in with that, and then listen, all right, be aware of what they do on corners or short free kicks or short corners, but let's concentrate on what we're good at. That's probably going to give us more chance of a win than spending 20 minutes worrying about how good they are at everything. And like Steve says, sometimes you'll get a report back, and I'm like, one of our lads, he watched someone the other year and he come back, I'm like, well, there's no point in us going.
No,
they were unbelievable.
Yeah.
I think sometimes you give the players too much information, it's wasted on them as well, and they go out, they don't do anything you've told them. And like, I think you're spot on there, Steve. I remember years ago, it was our first game of the season against Mahon and Tiptree. We'd done a whole session on how to stop Mahon and Tiptree in their diamond formation. And then we lost the game, and afterwards the feedback was that all we concentrated on that whole week was Mahon and Tiptree. We'd done nothing about what we're good at, and that was a learning curve for me. I was a young coach at the time. We'd done so much work on the opposition that we forgot ourselves, and we ended up losing the game. So,
totally.
So, when you do, when you get scouting, though, you're sending someone to do it. If you're not doing it yourself, is it going to be somebody that's part of your close team, and and also would it be somebody that surely I would assume it's got to be somebody that you trust quite well to actually go and do it?
We've got. Well, I don't know. We just had a lad who came in who offered to do it. We don't pay him. It's not something that would be in the budget for us. We wouldn't pay someone to go and do that, but he goes and does it. I think you get a couple of. What you'll do is you'll get a couple of reports. You'll then equate that to what you see in those games, because invariably you will play those teams pretty soon after you've got the report. And then you'll get a very quick idea of whether the fella knows what he's doing or not.
I think, David, I've done it myself, or it will be someone that I know really well, because if you do something and exactly what Steve said, and you've gone and you don't really know the fella, he's actually trying to impress you. So he is trying to pick up on every little thing, which is maybe nothing, and you do sit there and think, oh my God, these are too good. So sometimes, like I said, I'll go there, I'll look at the team sheet, it will be set plays and penalties. And when I've come back, I normally, in my coaching session, unless it's something unbelievable from a set play, like if there's zonal, etc., or they do this, we're set up there. But I normally try and look at what I think might be a weakness for them as well. And we might, our strengths will affect them, and sort of do that into the training. Because some people that say, and I'm not saying, I think we might have had it last week, I'm not really worried about the other side either. I think these teams are decent as well. You've got to pay them respect as much as you, and there is a fine balance of talking how good they are to how good you are. But I think you can use it in your way to make you more positive, as you're actually saying it in a team talk. If you are just concentrating on the other side, then that breathes in your changing room massively. You can look at your team and look at them all, look at you going, what's going on here? So it is a balancing act, but I do think you need to do it.
A lot of time it's not about concentrating on their strengths. It's about trying to exploit their weakness. And that's primarily why you're sending someone there. Invariably you tend to know what they do well. It's the bits that they don't do particularly well that you want to know about, and that's the bits that, as a football club, you need to work on to make it, for your side. That's what primarily I would be working on. Is okay, they play a high line, they're not very quick. The left back is bombs forward. He doesn't recover very well. The right winger just goes walkabout fullback can exploit that space. Things like that. And you're right, there is only so much information players at this level can take on. There's only so much information any player can take on that he needs to take on without actually affecting his game. But it's the big stuff that you need to concentrate on, not the little stuff. You can't cover every base. There will be certain things in the team you'll play against that you know your team is good at and can exploit. And that's the bits that you need to concentrate on. Not everything across the board, because that's just impossible. 2 nights a week, there's only a certain amount you can do anyway with them.
Yeah. Also, David, I think the Steves and Ryan say that I watch a lot of games because I might sit there and just think, do you know what? That right winger will fit perfectly into my side. The way he just works, his attitude, and you sit there and think, well, he's not maybe getting this or that, and you're just writing down, or you sit there and think, he's one for the future. I'll have a look at him, and it's more of your own sort of. The only way to say it's like product knowledge going forward that you sit there and think, right, I'll keep that in the old bank. And that's what I use a lot of the games for as well.
No, I would agree with that, Keith. The amount of times I've gone, like we might be playing, say, Asian Yeti next week, and you'll go and watch them. If we ain't got a game, you go and watch them on a Tuesday night. Look at the opposition. I spend more time like making notes about certain players because you think, then you keep your little black book on certain people, and all of a sudden, if one of them comes available, you've looked at him a couple of times. Like I say, if you sit there and you analyse the whole game, it just even you come away with your head's all over the place. And the only thing for me, I make sure it's a bit of a weird thing, but if I go and watch a game, I make sure no one can see me. And what I mean by that, I would make sure no one recognises me so I can watch the game. Because every non-league game you go to, someone's like, hello, mate, how you doing? And they sit down next to you. And you're trying to watch the game and you can't watch the game. Then someone else joins in the conversation. Then you all sit there talking absolute bollocks for an hour about how low your budget is and how much money Salisbury have got. And then you haven't seen any of the game, have you? So, no, it's, go and have a look, see what they do and see what players are about.
I think also you get this information. It doesn't have to be something that you talk to the group about. It might be, for example, we knew the Mersham left back at the weekend bombed on and was a very good player. So we put our hardest working right winger there. But it was never told to the group. It was just our team selection was based around some of their strengths and weaknesses. It was something I didn't have to bore the group with. We just made these little decisions and tweaks, which ultimately, we got the result out of it in the end.
It's just interesting to hear you say, because you see games, and I suppose it's quite funny when you're talking there with Steve about trying to make sure that no one recognises you. And I think one of the only ones of those that sort of situation that I can ever remember of people turning up into a ground and not being recognised was something that Ryan touched on earlier on about when they went from Brighton Regent to Averley. And I was at Averley at the time, and everybody was trying to guess who the new manager was going to be. No one had a clue who the new manager was going to be. There was a game, I think me and Keith were even doing the show from Averley on that Monday night. There was about 3 or 4 different managers we kept seeing popping up in the crowd. So I was sitting there thinking to myself, well, could it be this one? Could it be that one? Could it be this one? Then I was told that the actual announcement was going to be I think it was quite late at night, if I remember rightly, Ryan, and this announcement was actually going to be made. And it was somebody that we hadn't even completely thought about. And he was actually at the ground and managed to keep himself out of the way of everybody in that game. So that was probably one of the ones that I could remember that managed to sort of avoid everybody's gaze and managed to take over at Averley. But on your games, when your fixtures first come out and your league fixtures first come out, I mean, start with Ryan. I mean, what is the fixture that you look at, and it's the first one you look for to see who Brighton got that year and when?
To be honest, the first one I looked at was the first game of the season. I think you have to look at that first. Really wanted a home game, first game of the season. I just think that's an absolute must, and that was massive for us on Saturday. If we was away, it could have been a different story. But yeah, honestly, the first game I look for is that first one. Are we at home? Can we get off to a good start? And then I just tend to look at, sort of Boxing Day, around New Year's Eve, and look at some of those key dates. So I remember once on Boxing Day, obviously living in Brighton, we were away at Dereham on Boxing Day. So, so that's a good 2.5 hours for me. So I do tend to look for that one now and see where I am.
Steve?
I I'll be honest, my answer is quite boring. I just tend to look at game by game. I think for me, sometimes in previous seasons, I've sat down and I've looked at like the first month. And like for example, last year, our first 5 or 6 games, like we were Truro away, Chesham, Met Police, Weston-super-Mare, I think it might be Tiverton or somewhere else. And I was struggling to sleep. So there's no point in stressing and worrying about things that you can't do anything about until they come around. So for me, it's right. We got Yate on Saturday. Yeah, we didn't win, disappointing. And tomorrow we go to Hartney Whitney. That's all I'm bothered about because that's the only thing that we can control tomorrow. The rest of it, we'll worry about Salisbury when we go there Saturday. That's all we can do.
There's not a game that, opponents you like to play against in that league that you look forward to when you're going, either when you're going there or when they're coming to you?
Probably Truro away is probably the only one you have a little look to think, right, when could that be? Is it obviously you're praying it's going to be a Saturday? It's not so bad now. But to be honest, the other games, we know we're going to get ending every year on Boxing Day and August bank holiday, so that never changes. And the rest of it is pretty much, it is what it is. But sometimes you can look at them in chunks and you think, oh, bloody hell, we got a tough January. And you're like, right, we need to make sure we got a certain amount of points going on the board going into certain months. But ultimately, we've got to play everybody twice. They've got to come to us. We've got to go to them. So I'm pretty pragmatic with it, game at a time. And we just crack on and try and do the best we can for each one.
Yeah, I'm sort of like, I tend to look at the first 4 or 5 games, see how difficult they are. If we can get results, obviously, that could be a tough start. I could be gone by September. Do you know what I mean? If we don't win them games. so look at it as sort of patches of 4 and 5 to think when I'll be gone, sort of thing. But anyway, no. I sort of like, you look at the first month, and it's so important. I don't care what anyone says. It's so important to get off to a reasonable, if not good start, because this is not a league to play catch up in. It really isn't. You fall 10, 12 points behind against a good side. You could do that in September. You won't make that up. Take you 6 months to make that up. You'll need to win 7 or 8 on the trot to make those 10 points up. You won't do that in this league. So the start is always imperative that it's a start that you hope and you pray that you can get results in, so that you've got some sort of foundation, some sort of basis to base the rest of your season on. Because you get a bad start and you really are just playing catch up. You're playing pressure football literally from minute one, and that's tough. That's tough, and particularly in, as we said, about the leagues at our level where there are no gimmies. We've got you look at, okay, Dorchester would have probably been over the period of the last 2 or 3 years the side that have picked up the least amount of points. Yeah, they'll average on a bad day 350 people. On a good day, they can get 500-600 people through the turnstiles. And that's the team that have picked up the least amount of points. So it's the league has depth, it has strength, it has a bit of everything. It's tough. It really is tough. And as I say, you're looking at it and thinking, you're trying to analyse where you're going to get points and where your home games are, particularly early on in the season, that hopefully you can pick up some points to take the pressure off.
And I suppose you two guys are really hoping for is the week leading up to the 9th of October and the week leading up to the 8th of January, that the weather's nice and sunny, so that your games don't get called off and your away trips to Truro.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, you said it's Plymouth now, so it's just it's just a quick drive down the the A505, and then you're there, aren't you? So yeah, it's all right now, isn't it? We don't mind Plymouth. We didn't like Truro, but we don't mind Plymouth.
Dave, we were the same with Guernsey. We used to look straight away when we got Guernsey, like what flight, if it was in the winter months, we used to sit and go, oh no, just in case it was called off and you have to fly on a midweek. So that was that one. But I used to look over Christmas as well the last couple of years, because I had a player, the old Millwall player, Ali Fassini, and he used to go away back home to Ghana from December the 12th to New Year. So we always used to think, oh, have we got any like the top sides over there, because in case we're missing him. But over the last 2 years, could never get him to stay.
Well, you say about the Christmas fixtures, and that's one of the things I always look at. And you think, especially with Harlow, with the likes of Ware quite close, and Waltham Abbey quite close, and Hertford Town quite close, and we've got none of them on Boxing Day. And you just think it's a bit weird that you've got all those clubs that are really sort of next door to each other, and we've got. It's not too far, I suppose, but we've got Colney Heath, so but you'd expect to have had one of those ones that are quite close to you. But listen, guys, I must say it's been a fantastic couple of hours. The time's absolutely flown by, and it's been absolutely fantastic being in the company of Ryan and Steve, and of course Steve as well. Massive thank you for all of you giving up your valuable time tonight to come on the show to join me and Keith, and of course also to Keith as well. It's been a fantastic night, great chat with you guys, and we wish you all the very, very best midweek and also on Saturday as well. And I suppose the best we can hope for, I suppose, with you two guys, is a draw, and then you'll both be happy, I suppose.
I'd probably take that now. I'm not sure Steve will.
All I want to say is I just want to give my utmost respect to everybody on this show, because I don't think people truly understand how hard we all work at this, and how much it matters to us, and how much we care. And no matter what level, I the one thing it has done is open my eyes to how hard everyone has to work, and how time consuming and what everyone puts into it. So my utmost respect to everyone on the show, because it really is a tough gig for everybody. So good luck to everyone, and I'll no doubt see you soon, Steve.
Yeah.
See you Saturday, mate.
See you Saturday, mate.
And say thanks, Steve, for giving up your valuable time. It's really appreciate it tonight. So massive thank you. Me and Keith, we're both away next weekend. And then, of course, the following weekend is Bank Holiday Monday, which, of course, teams will be playing. So we're back on the 6th of September, and we've got a very big guest sorted out that Keith doesn't even know about yet until after the show's finished tonight. But he's coming on to tell us all about his story that's been in the press. It's been in the news quite regularly over the last week or so. But he's contacted me today to say that that he's going to come on and chat to us about that. We are going to step up a level, and we're going to go into step 2 for 1 week only. But he's going to come on and talk to us about his career and about what has happened to him around the COVID situation as well. So until the 6th of September, thank you very much for watching. And me and Keith will be back then. Massive thank you to everybody else. Good night.
Cheers, guys.